Hello, beautiful souls. Namaste. Welcome to my channel. It's Dr. Danny. I'm just going to do my intro all over again because I had my mic muted. So thank you guys so much for being there and giving me the feedback. I'm so excited to bring you these people backstage, Varone Bright and Jeffrey Kemke. These people are modern magicians. We've been talking as a small group for about 2 years now, and every time we get together, there is an amazing alchemy. It's almost as if we almost solve all the world's problems. Every time I leave a conversation with these guys, I feel like empowered. So in our conversations last week about loosh and about how to control your loosh and how to be more powerful with your own loosh, we also talked about egregores, which is synonymous with energy vampires. Okay. So anything that kind of sucks your energy away from you, either inadvertently or on purpose. So, we talked about social media. We talked about, other people. We talked about YouTube even being an egregore and or a social vampire. And so what I thought we'd do today is take the idea of these entities that are out there, that are sucking our energy, how to identify them. And we're going to talk with these modern magicians that are going to help us figure out, what is draining our energy and how do we pull it back? How do we pull it back into ourselves? And so I'm really excited to bring them both out here for you. Real quick, just a couple of quick announcements. Stellar Foundation starts on Monday. So those 17 beautiful souls that are in this inaugural group with me, I am so excited. We're gonna have a great time on Monday night. Michael Hardigan will be there to help everyone set up their software. So if you can make it to the live, that'll be great. If not, it will be recorded and it will also be in your learning modules. You're going to get an email from me tomorrow with instructions on how to log into the Zoom call for Monday night. Okay. So if you have any problems or questions, please email me. And then on Tuesday, we're going to go live. We're going to do some astrology. We're going to do some decoding. And I just have a lot of amazing things planned for you guys. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Varone Bright and Jeffrey Kemke, my beautiful friends, my modern magicians. Welcome to my channel. Say hello. Jeffrey, introduce yourself, and then Varone, introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Great to be with you again, Dr. Danny and Varone. We love these conversations. My name is Jeff Kamke. I'm a wealth strategist, and I do wealth energetics. It's the energy, it's the wealth, it's the money, it's the mindset, it's the consciousness, and I love all things related to that.
Awesome. Varone.
Hi. Very happy to be here. Like you said, Dr. Danny, when we get together, I feel like we vibe on a different plane, and I was needing it. So my name is Varone. I kind of am a fusion of many different modalities. I have a background in Chinese medicine. I'm a 13 sign astrologer. My main focus is helping people release dense energy out of them, whether that's old patterns, programs, stagnant emotions, so that they can be more reunited with their soul. And I utilize the stars and the cosmos as we are made of the same fundamental elements as the entire cosmos. All the fundamental elements in our bodies were birthed in the bellies of the stars, exploded out. And so when we can align and activate, we can really awaken more of that dormant DNA, creating the reality that we want to, instead of just accepting maybe what was handed to us. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I love it. You do amazing work, and I don't even think you can toot your own horn loud enough. I think you're I think you're someone that sort of follows the energetics and the patterns of the collective. You feel their energy, and it's like you
yes.
create these programs and drop it right on people when they need it the most. It's really spectacular. And also too, you can just if she's tuned into you and you just tell her something, she can read you too, like an oracle. It's really, really incredible.
Yeah, definitely been an oracle in many lives. I will say that there is a positive and a negative side. I feel, but then also I feel. And so sometimes the feeling is too much, and it takes a lot of responsibility and self-awareness and reflection in order to walk this path and not go insane. I don't know how else to say it besides that. Like, it can really push you to your edges, and but I'm grateful to be here, and I truly care about the humans on this planet and this planet in general, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to like help raise the frequency.
Raise the frequency. Guys, Varone's link tree is in the description. I didn't have any other links for you, but she also has a channel. And also Jeffrey's links are down there. Jeffrey, you incorporate spirituality into your wealth tactics too, don't you? Like, which is what I love about what you do, because it's not just about like making the money, but it's about what does abundance actually mean to people.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, I equate it to much how in health there's, conventional medicine and then there's alternative medicine, and you're looking at things from a totally different perspective with different tools and really a higher level consciousness, in my opinion. So I take that same approach to money. So you have financial advisors, you have people who will teach you all about money, but then a lot of times they're neglecting the mindset part, the inner part, the spiritual part of you. That if you want to get better with money, you have to change things deep within yourself. There's things within you that you've brought with you into this incarnation at this moment that need to be upgraded. And so for you to go up levels with money, a lot of times we have to look at ourselves a lot deeper and find what are the parts of me that are resisting more abundance, more wealth, and the strategies to create wealth, whether that's the stock market, mutual funds, whatever the tool is. For us to maximize the potential of those things, we have to get out of our own way and really become, a higher version of ourselves. And once we do that, money starts to show up differently in our life. And those are the parts that I love blending together, because in my opinion, you can't separate them out. If you're just talking to people about money, you're doing them a disservice. And you have to bring in the energetics of it and help people evolve and move through their stuff if they want to get better with money and have it stick around and be a permanent transformation.
Absolutely. I am of the opinion that money is an energy and it allows you to do things. And if you have big dreams and if you want to influence people and your heart's really into it, you want to talk to someone like Jeff, because he's going to like really the journey towards abundance is spiritual mastery. So I love it. Your gifts are wonderful to be in our presence. And so the topic of the hour is energy vampires. Like, what drains our energy? Where does it go? How do we let it go? Is there some sort of consent there? Are we victims? Are we our own energy vampires? I want to just kind of open this up, and maybe Verona, I think your story of the freak hurricane in North Carolina is a great opening to this topic, because so many energetics were being shifted around during that time. There was conspiracy theories about it being some sort of man-made weapon targeting that area. And, some people believe that, some people were terrified of that. There was actual like human suffering there that was profoundly plutonic. It was very Pluto energy. It just kind of came out of nowhere. One of the things I wanted to ask you specifically was, because you're very sensitive to the energies, a lot of times these catastrophic physical events are preceded by something energetic. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, especially, at least on the personal level, when you change something internally, it freaking ripples outward and then everything changes. And so I'm wondering if you sensed something like that in your area. Was there a collective energy where there was a shift, maybe days or weeks or months before that? And then share your experience. Yes, please.
Okay, I'm going to say definitely. Even you asking me this question right now, I'm like, okay, yes, there were a lot of signs, and I thought maybe like they were just personal to me because I was seeing the signs. Like, so this whole, we've been in the year of the Yang Wood Dragon as far as the Chinese cosmology.
Mm.
And so I've been really tuned in to wood, and I saw a lot of like trees being taken down. I had to get a tree taken down in my yard. Another tree in my yard died. I also saw a lot of like, at one point, like people weren't cleaning up after their dogs in my neighborhood. Like I saw like poop around, which like never happens because my neighborhood is like just delightful. And I'm like, what are these signs of like death and waste and like, just. And I thought it was just going to be like my personal life. Now, I did have a very intense 2024. I experienced a lot of death, like a lot of friends died. So, it felt very personal to me. But then I can see how it was very much part of the collective too, because with what happened with the hurricane, a lot of trees went down. That was like the huge thing that happened. So many down trees. And there's a lot of trees that are still down because there's been so much that has had to be taken care of, that things that weren't an emergency or number one priority, got put back on the back burner. Like we have still trees in our neighborhood that are down. So I did.
And you guys, Verona's in Asheville. Like she was like in the middle of it.
Yes,
Yes.
very, I'm just gonna say I'm very, very grateful that like my home was okay and that I personally don't know anybody in town who crossed over, but there was a lot of destruction, not just here, like rippling out even hours away. It didn't just happen in Asheville. This spread out really far. A lot of destruction happened in a very short period of time. It wasn't something that sprawled out over like, many weeks. It was all just within like almost 24 hours, like, even less than that. All of this, destruction happened. It felt like a monster came through and then just like left us with the rubble. So, it was, I got very calm before all of it happened. I actually, during the hurricane proper, I fell asleep. I could not stay awake. My guides were like, there's going to be a lot of clearing energy. That's all I heard. And then I got so exhausted that I had to crawl in bed and fall asleep. And when I woke up, it was like over and the sun was shining. And I'm like, did it, did anything happen? And it took weeks for me to know how much damage actually happened to this area because we were cut off from internet, from phone, from power, from water. We didn't have any way to really talk to anybody. I didn't have any communication with anybody for like the first 3 days because everything was off. And so as time went on, I saw more and more of like what actually transpired. And that was very challenging to be around that much destruction. But I also feel as though I saw so much of the community come together in this like unification that just wouldn't have been here. Like I met neighbors that I didn't know. We were checking on people. And when it really shows you when it comes down to like what you need, I mean, basic needs. Do you have water? I mean, water. We use water for everything. We didn't have any running water at all here in the city for almost a month and no clean drinking water for like 3 months. So, you can't wash your dishes, you can't flush your toilet. I mean, just basic stuff. And so when it comes to that, people really do come together. People come together when kind of like when shit hits the fan and you're not going to let your neighbor die of dehydration, even if they like voted for somebody you don't like. You're gonna watch. And so it brought me into like the human goodness that like at our core we really do care about one another and we want to help, and people just organize in such a powerful way, and that gave me a lot of hope. That really connected me even greater to like God. That really made me just feel like people really do like want to help one another, and we aren't that different than we think. Now, after the hurricane, like, do people go? You go back into your ways a little bit, but we all went through something collectively, and we can't take that away from our experience. And I do think that there is like a power in this community that like we're going to show up for each other in a way that maybe we wouldn't have before. So I'm a strange optimist. Like I am very Plutonian and I can sink into the depths of the underworld, but also I'm optimistic because I mean, what else? Are you just going to like think about everything being horrible all the time? Like that's just not my trajectory. So even though it was really challenging and it was like something that was not just not expected, it didn't seem possible. The dragon being the energy of limitless possibilities and unknown possibilities, that you could take that good, bad, anything in between. But yeah, it really made me see the power of Mother Nature and the elements when they're full raging. And as far as all the different perspectives, like you said, there were so many different energies and ideas going around. I'm a person that's like, yes to everything. I think that there's limitless possibilities. It's like, even if you look at the making of the universe or the human body, like 99.99% is empty space. Like of an atom, 99.99% is empty space. Like empty space, the electron cloud. So really we have limitless possibilities. And so yeah, they all exist. Like maybe this. For me, I can hold all possibilities at once. It doesn't shake me. It's like, okay. I think some people have to say like, this is true and this is false. And for me, I can say like, this is true, this is true, this is true. It's like all of them are true, and they're all kind of happening at once. And what you focus on is the one that you're bringing down into a more physical, dense, concrete reality. And I think that's kind of the topic of our thing today. Like, so maybe I'll leave
Yeah.
it there.
Yeah, it's about the transfer of energy. Where are we putting our energy? Where are we putting our focus? And I guarantee you those 3 days when no one had internet, they weren't looking down at their screens. They weren't
No,
like
I was standing in.
they were looking around them. They were looking
I
around
was
them, you
standing
know?
in line waiting to try to get any type of like food because I was like, wish I went grocery shopping before. Yeah, wasn't prepared, that's for sure. But I definitely connected to a whole bunch of people that I would have never talked to. Wasn't looking at my phone. Phone didn't work. Couldn't call anybody. So that part was a blessing, to just have a cleanse from my device, forced cleanse.
Yeah. Yeah. So the focus of the community's energy around each other to help each other. This is that loosh energy, right? That let's all pile it on. Let's draw it back to ourselves. And so Jeffrey, what are your experiences with energy draining entities or forces that are out there in the world?
Yeah, good question. So this will be fun to share. So it was very interesting, and I don't want to get political. I'm not going to talk about political sides, but it was an observation I made. We took my wife actually was present. She just told me about it. So it's a secondhand observation. But my wife took my son to school the morning after the election, and we take my son. He's in it's called Waldorf school, so it's kind of like Montessori, but there's no technology in the classroom, and it's kind of old school teaching, and is very much in line with our values and beliefs and how we wanted to have the school environment for our son. So my wife dropped him off, and she said, "You would have thought." And it was in a very liberal town too, mind you. It's Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is University of Michigan. It's a very culturally diverse town. A lot of the staff at the hospital have pronoun badges. I mean, that's the caliber of the town, right? That's who we're talking about. My wife said you would have thought like all the parents lost like a loved one that morning. I mean, they were like, it was somber. Nobody was talking. And it was like, oh my gosh, like the population at this school was hit so hard by the results of the election. And to me, that was a huge, you just gave your power away. Like you don't even know these people. You just see them on TV, just like you do an athlete, just like you do a musician, just like you do people that are on like The Bachelor. I mean, they're just a figure on TV. You don't even know them personally. And you create all this stuff in your mind, and whether it's in alignment with you or out of alignment with you, you have these reactions to it. I mean, I even see it on the other side. People that voted for Trump are like, yes, savior and all this stuff. Either way, you're giving away your power to an outside entity, to something you have really no control over the decisions that are made at the higher realms. Call them the elite class, whatever you want to say. So that was a really powerful observation for me, and for me to check into my own self, like, wow, am I giving my power away to either side here, or am I making sure I'm creating my reality, reminding myself of my power to create my reality, reminding myself of I can choose my thoughts, I can change my vibration, I can change my consciousness, I can create. You talked about the ripple effect, Danny. You can create whatever ripples you want to be in. You can create that, and to remember the power that we have, because you can create hell on earth, you can create heaven on earth. You have that power to bring in people and experiences and circumstances that match whatever you're putting out. So if you're putting out fear and all these things, then you're going to get that back. If you're putting out joy and peace and community and love, you're going to get those things back. And it's just the rules of the universe. And so, a lot of the lens I look through is, the money side of it, the economics of our lives, the financial parts of our lives, and how it's impacted with energy and our beliefs and what we vibrate. And so even with, the change in political power that's coming in, tomorrow or the next couple of days, I guess Monday, right? So, that is going to have a ripple effect on the economy one way or the other. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But we know that there's going to be probably some changes, some things that affect our lives in some way. And I'm reminded of, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Ed Foreman. He's a very popular personal development teacher from many, many years ago. He's passed away now. I think he passed away in the last few years. But I had been to a few conferences of him, and he always talked about, he had many businesses back in like the 70s and 80s. And one of them was like he did like gravel and produced like things for roads and construction of bridges and those kind of things. He was like in that realm, right? So it was, many, many $1 million business. And there was the economic issues in the 80s where there was some struggles, right? And some of the people around him at a higher level in business were like, well, is your business crumbling? And he's like, nope, I'm doing great. I'm actually doing better than I ever have. And they're like, well, how are you not affected by this bad economy? And he's like, I chose not to participate. And so we have the power to create. We can choose and make the decisions on whether we're going to get sucked into a certain way of being, whether that's political or economic or our health or whatever it is. We have the power to say, no, I'm not going to participate in that. I'm not going to allow that energy to suck and drain me of my life force and take me off my course of what I'm here to do and what I'm here to accomplish. And so that's really my big point that I want to drive home. And then I want to talk a little bit about a couple things more specific to finance that I observe in my world, because I meet with people every week and we talk about their finances. We talk about their goals and their values and their beliefs around money and what they're here to do in this world and how we can create financial strategies that get them in line with that, because quite honestly, a lot of us are off of that. I'm off of that sometimes. Just because I'm in this world doesn't mean I'm perfect with it. We need these reminders sometimes to remember who we are and why we're here, and to make sure we're making the decisions day to day that are going to get us to where we want to go to create the life that we want. And as you said it perfectly, Danny, in the intro, money is a tool. It helps us. To me, it's here to help deliver our purpose into the world. You can do a lot more purpose doing with more money. You see the people with more money, they can make a bigger impact. And so if you have a big purpose, more than likely, you're probably called to make more money and do things with money. Doesn't mean you have to be materialistic. I think it's very much a reflection of your spiritual power, how much money you are gifted with to control and to utilize in the 3D. And so a few of the things that I see that are on the financial side that do drain people's power. The first one is probably pretty obvious. A lot of financial gurus like Dave Ramsey talk about it. It's debt. Debt is a huge energy vampire. It sucks a lot of energy from us. I've had phases in my life where I've had debt, and it can be a very crushing energy. There's certain people in the world that they can be $1 billion in debt and they're not fazed by it. They still have a really high vibration, a high consciousness. They can go do whatever they want, and it doesn't affect them. Other people are, $1,000 in debt and they're like crushed, they're just taken out. So a lot of people don't have the vibratory strength to get themselves through mentally and energetically through debt. And that can be a big drain of our resources energetically, because it changes our thoughts. It usually brings in negative emotions, and those negative emotions stimulate our body in very powerful ways. There's systems of our body that directly are influenced by when we think stressful thoughts or fearful thoughts or, disempowering thoughts. There's parts of our system that will be ramped up. There's systems that will be turned down. And you do that long term, that's where you start seeing dis-ease in the body. And so finances, our money, how we allow our power to be given away to, things like debt, and how it can suck our energy, can have an adverse effect on us long term if we aren't able to turn the corner and upgrade our situation and maybe be around like-minded people and have mentorship and be able to get things back on track as soon as possible. And, part of my other life before I got into wealth strategies was bioenergetics. And so I learned a lot of these things very in depth of what are the stressors doing to our energy system and to the specific systems of our body, and what can we do to undo those things. And so, if you've been in a situation where you've been stressed out around money for maybe your whole life, it's probably having an adverse effect on your health. I was actually just messaging with a friend of mine here in Michigan earlier today, and in the last couple of days, and he's been having some financial stress. And the minute I hadn't talked to him since before Thanksgiving, and the minute I heard his voice message today, the first word out of his mouth, I sensed the massive drop in energy. And you probably have talked to people in your life, and you're like, oh my gosh, something must be going on. I can sense it in their voice. I can hear it in their voice. You can just feel something significant is going on. Well, his he said, I have no energy. I just don't have any motivation. It's like my desires have been turned off because I'm in financial stress. And so that has an adverse effect on a lot of things in our life: sleep, our health, our ambition to fulfill our purpose, to go make more money, right? It can be a vicious cycle that we get stuck in. So anything we can be doing to empower ourselves to get out of debt, reduce our debt, even starting to reduce debt, can be a big lift and boost to our energy, to our vibration, because you feel like, there's momentum positively coming into my life. And therefore I can start, building upon that and making more positive changes in my life and get more and more out of debt to where I have an excess of money and building towards my dreams and my goals and being able to use my money in a more productive way than just giving it to 20% interest off of student loans or credit cards or the department stores. I can actually be putting the extra money into the life that I want to build and towards the people that I want to serve, right? That's such a more empowering vibration that we can have. So that's the first piece. And then the last piece I want to give around money is a lot of people I talk to, they literally have no plan when it comes to money. They don't know what to do with their money. It's a paycheck to paycheck mentality. It's a really no direction with what they want to do. They might have a sort of an abstract idea of where they want to go and what they want to accomplish in life, but there's not a concrete vision, a concrete plan, a step-by-step way to get there. And I'm reminded with all of this of a Robert Kiyosaki quote that I've done in some presentations, and I got this from the last insurance agency that I was a part of. And Robert Kiyosaki is quoted as saying, the word accounting, so we talk about our accounting with our books and making sure all of our stuff is in order with our businesses, right? Or even personally, the word accounting comes from the word accountability. He says, if you're going to be rich, you need to be accountable for your money. And so the energy of accountability, the energy of responsibility is a much higher one than that of one that is maybe drifting or is maybe withdrawn from money, right? I'm reminded if you guys have ever read Dr. David Hawkins' books around the hierarchy of consciousness, the map of consciousness, and there's different levels of consciousness. When you get to above 200, it begins to be more of a positive energy and it builds upon that. Anything below 200 is a drain. It's an energy vampire, right? All the negative emotions, and the more intense those negative emotions, the more they can drain from us. And so, I'm looking at the chart here that I had pulled up. Withdrawal is actually at the same level as fear, consciousness 100. So if you're feeling those emotions around money or any other area of your life, that is going to be a drain of your resources. So things that you can do to begin to, for a lot of people, I've been there, you're in a negative space. You're stuck in a negative cycle. Maybe you're in a phase of your life where there's just a lot of negativity and you need to move beyond that. And, you might hear people are like, oh, you just need to get positive. Well, for some people, they're already a negative 10, and to try to go to 0 or a positive 10 is like, yeah, freaking right. That ain't going to happen. Maybe you just need to focus on getting to negative 9 or maybe negative 8, right? Just start moving the needle, just like I talked about with debt. Move the needle a little bit, get less negative, get less in debt, and start feeling slightly better. You're still not maybe feeling good, but you're feeling slightly better. And if you're already feeling pretty good, great. How can we boost that? How can we continue to always be feeling better and better and better? And that will have a positive impact on all areas of our life. We're feeling better about our relationships. We're feeling better about our body. We're feeling better about our connection to source or God. We're feeling better about our money. And we continue to work towards that. It may not be a day-to-day, you're always feeling better every day, but if it's every quarter or every year, you look back, am I feeling better today about the things in my life that I was a year ago? Have I made progress? Hell yeah, I made progress. Great. That's positive momentum that you can take into the new year and to really do a lot more good in this year and continue to build upon that. So those are my thoughts around what I see in my world around things that suck our energy and our energy vampires.
So much to unpack there, Jeffrey. That was amazing. One thing that came to my mind was generosity. The energy of money. If you have extra, if you have excess, like I just recently looked over my taxes and my finances for this year, and I have the ability to give. And so I'm giving to my mother, I'm giving to my family, I'm helping them. And that energy right there, when that surrounds you, also draws to you. There's also another thing that came up for me while you were talking was the ability to receive, to feeling worthy enough to actually receive the gifts that Spirit has intended for you, that you have had intended for yourself since before you were born. If you come down here with ego and wounding and fear and victimization, you're not going to know that you are good enough to receive this. And so I think that receiving is a big part of the journey in order to protect yourself. What are you receiving? What do you not want to receive anymore? So the ability to discern what it is that you're actually receiving. And then there was another point that you made that I wanted to say too, but I forgot. So, Varone, do you have anything to respond to Jeffrey?
The receiving part, I'd like to speak on that because it's more than just like, okay, I receive now like when you have, coming from experience, when you have a lot of like trauma, when you've been running fight or flight your entire life, it's not just about like, I sit still now. If your energy is still running, you're not able to receive because you're constantly being like, what's next, what's next, what's next, like scanning your environment all the time. And I will say, like, life will put you in situations where you have no other choice but to receive sometimes. Like sometimes life will make it where it's like you have to accept help from other people in order to have like a reception. That I experienced that with the hurricane. I was completely out of commission. I could not do my business for 2 months because I felt too mentally just crumbled. Like I know I couldn't show up for my clients in the way I needed to, so I had to take a step back, and I applied for a whole bunch of artist grants. I'm like, I can work on art. That like doesn't allow me to have to like show up for people in that, kind of more holding space way. And so I applied for a whole bunch of grants and I got them, and I was like, whoa, I'm receiving this help coming in. It's like the eighth house, and I never thought my eighth house had any activation because I was like, well, my parents don't care about me. I've got no adults that have ever cared about me. No one's leaving me inheritance. But wow, is the eighth house so much more than just that? So like even I was unconscious to the ability of what I could receive and how I could receive until I was put into a situation where I had no other choice but to receive. Like my partner's family helped us. And so sometimes you have to be put in these situations that feel very unfamiliar and very uncomfortable to break those old stories that say like, the only way I'm going to make money is if I work hard, that's the only way, and I have to go, go, go. Well, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. That's just one little drop of how something can come in. There's so many ways into having receptivity, but you have to be able to like be still enough and open enough to let it come in. My ancestors are always saying, how are you going to let us give you your generational gifts if you're always moving around? Like you need to sit the F down. Like you're always moving around. And sometimes you are being put in these, sometimes people like may have like a health thing where they're like, they have to rely on other people, and it can seem on the surface like, oh no, something bad happened. But really, when you're shifting these like deep like bloodline patterns, like these generational patterns, as far as like wealth goes and finances, it usually doesn't just start with you learned it from your parents, they learned it from their parents, and so on and so forth. So some of these deeper patterns and programs, they go back, who knows how far they go back. And a program, all it wants to do is continue, and as long as you're giving it food, as long as you're like, it's coded, it's going to keep going. And breaking them down can really, sometimes you have to go through something traumatic. You do. I mean, I really do believe that Earth is a place for us to learn. And do I think that we can just have 100% peace on Earth, the end? I just don't think that is Earth. There is a dynamic quality to Earth. We're here
That's
to
no
grow.
fun.
It's not like, if everything was just like, you wouldn't know the difference, and so
Right.
we do, we have to be brought into these situations. Sometimes you're like literally like, the come to Jesus moment where you're brought to your knees, where you're like, okay, I got nowhere to run, I got nowhere to turn, like, I'm just going to open up to something greater than me. I've been brought to that experience many times, and sometimes there's nothing to figure out. I think sometimes, like Jeffrey said, like there is a part that you figure out, like, and you do the work, and then there's a part where you just like let go and you trust. Because if you're not trusting, you're saying like, okay, I did it all, but like I'm going to hold on to this because I really don't think it's actually going to come through. If you do like an offer for your business and you're just like constantly checking, did anybody sign up? You don't trust that like what you put out is actually worth it. And like a lot of worth and value, I mean, that's a huge one to like really know that like you don't have to do anything to be worthy of abundance, worthy of love, worthy of like receiving. This idea that we have to constantly do something in order to receive something, I think is so like off balance. But our whole society tells us that, it's nobody's fault, but it is our responsibility to shift this. And so, and also being able to follow your bliss too. I think receptivity and money also really loves to go with things that bring us joy and pleasure. If you're making money by doing something that you hate, well, now you have a hate relationship with like your life and with money.
Yeah.
A lot of people have horrible relationship with money because I think money is like the root of evil, and they see people out there that have a whole bunch and they're like, you're the problem. And trust me, I used to be one of those people. I see my old Facebook posts where I'm like, wow, okay, I don't believe that anymore. If anything, I'm like, well, if that's possible for you, it's possible for me. If that's out there for them, it's also out there for me and everybody else. And so, instead of being like, this sucks and I hate it, all you're doing is pushing it away more instead of being like, all right, well, this opens up a lot of possibilities. Like money equals possibilities. Money equals opportunities. Money equals like supplies. Money equals travel. Money, and it's just what we use. And so, it's like, why not open up to all that life has for us and really follow like what brings you joy and bliss in order to like have those channels bring more in. So if money for you equals like I work hard and I'm exhausted, then now money equals exhaustion, and so, and it's more of it's still debt energy, all of that is debt energy, all of that is the exhaustion energy. And so like to really clear debt, you've got to clear it inside first. I'm a believer that like it has to happen inside, and I think both of you agree too. I mean, I've done sessions with you, Jeffrey, of like the bioenergetics, and I recommend Jeffrey. I did sessions with him and it was like instantaneous, like I had things happening for me. But if you believe deep inside, like subconsciously and unconsciously, that like you're bad or you're not worth anything, or the only way that you can have something is to prove your worth. I know that. I went to 10 years of college trying to prove my worth. Honestly, like at the root of it, I really feel like what I went to college for on the deepest level was to prove that I wasn't white trash, because my family, I come from like, for real, like my trailer parks and like, a lot of drugs. And so like, I mean, I'm grateful for what I learned, but I think on the deepest level was like, if I can get these college degrees, I can prove that I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, and so now I'm like not operating like that anymore. And I think that you have to get to like the mode of operation, like what drives you? Why are you choosing what you're choosing? And if you're choosing from a place of like lack or trying to prove your worth, you're still going to be in that debt energy. Even if you make money, you might not keep it, or it's just not going to feel as good, So, yeah, maybe that's what I have to say.
Yeah. I was reminded of the other thing I wanted to say about Jeffrey's topics of discussion, and it plays into the energy vampire thing, and it being in healthcare, being on the receiving end of those who are way past beyond healing their emotional issues and their energetic issues. Now they are in the doctor's office with problems. Okay, years and years of that, I see that. And what really struck out to me was COVID and how people reacted to the whole COVID narrative, how they gave their energy away to this thing. Even I did, while I was resisting it, like, no, no, no. I kept pushing it away. I kept screaming. I was angry. I was throwing shade on it, yet it still was there. It still reared its ugly head. And it hung around for a very, very long time. And there was this moment where I was just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't even care. I'm going to, whatever they need, I'm going to make sure that they've got their documentation, and I'm going to walk away, and I'm not going to worry about this anymore. And then all of a sudden, like all the rules started lifting. Now, I can't say that, my decision to let it go released all of that for me personally, but yet I think I can. I think we have that much control over our own reality. It reminds me of a few stories of a few podcasters that I would watch during COVID who would say things like, I'm not playing into this. I'm not doing this. They literally cut themselves off from the whole COVID narrative, decided that they were not going to play on all levels, and they never had any problems. They were able to either keep their job or make money or travel wherever they wanted, completely unaffected by lockdowns and mandates and riots and all sorts of things like that. And so I think it's literally what we choose, And so the reason that this discussion in general came up for me and has been coming up for me is the turn of the year. Every year we get 2025 predictions. We get, oh my God, this is getting ready to happen. Oh my God, watch out for this major planetary alignment. I'm getting that viral meme that goes around every 3 years about all the planets lining up. I don't know if you're getting that, but yeah. So we're going to talk about that on Tuesday. But anyway, so all these shock headlines are going out like, I want you to feel something. It's asking us to feel something. Are you getting a sense of that? And so it's almost like there's these energy vampires, these egregores, these energy of give me your attention. I'm hungry. I need you. And so that's why it's come up for me, watching all these headlines and everything. And so I thought that, if we could just kind of discuss this, bring to the front what some of these energy vampires are that are lurking, whether we didn't recognize them before, but now we do. Things like the media, things like where we work. Are you sitting in an ultraviolet death dungeon, with the fluorescent death beams above your head, just to earn money? Are you living in a place that sucks your energy dry because you're not close to nature, like maybe in a busy city, or maybe you hate nature and you want to get into the city? There's not enough stimulation for you, so you need to get into an environment that vibes with who you are and what you are, because we are all coded. We all came down here with a certain blueprint that naturally flows with our creative energy. And that's what Verone does with her oracle work and her astrology work. She finds out who you are at the core, who you are at the base, what is stopping you from emerging from that shell that you hide yourself in. That's what she opens up for you. I look at the stars and we get your basic pattern. Like, this is what turns you on, this is what turns you off, this is what's going to trigger you. And then Jeffrey over here can get into your energetics. These are just tools. We're just magicians that help people using realistic, concrete tools that help people through these different transitions and these different journeys in their life but at the same time using a spiritual modality. So it's not just about the money. It's about your energy, because that ultimately that's your gold, right? That's your gold. Your pure gold at the heart of you. What are you spending it on? What are you shining it on? So I love both of these discussions. Do you guys have any other thoughts? Anything that's come up for you over the last couple of weeks at the turn of the year that you've noticed?
Well, I'd like to just say that, like, this part of, like, we control our reality, I think the way that you have the most control is by letting go of control, because there's so much that is out
Yes.
of your control. If you try to control, like, say you live in a house with multiple people and you try to control every single person in your house, well, you're not going to have any energy for yourself. And it's just impossible. That comes from, usually, if we grew up in, like, chaotic, like, childhood, you'll be an adult that, over controls and try to control everything. But if you do that, like, and you're constantly thinking about all these things, you're trying to control everything, you're just like, you're not going to be able to live your life, because you're just not in your center anymore. You're not actually in your reality anymore. So, like, even with me, with, like, experiencing the hurricane here, the minute the fire started in LA, I was instantly like, oh my God, like, so connected in. And, like, I know a lot of people in Los Angeles, and, like, it also just felt like it rang so home for me, because I'm like, we just experienced this here. And I was, like, so tuned in. And then I had to take a step back, because I'm like, okay, like, I'm just, like, hooked onto a trauma response, and I'm still healing from what happened. And, like, I'm going to help people as I can, but I can't 24/7 be tuned into it. And that's just true for everything in the world. It's like, there are things happening, and there are things that, like, I don't want to be happening. And also, like, how much of it can I control in the moment, and how much of it, like, am I going to be tuned into 24/7? Like, peace is our birthright no matter what. Like, peace and ease and abundance is our birthright no matter what. And, I think there's back to the kind of, like, yes and yes, this paradox is, like, on one hand you can acknowledge things, and on the other hand you have to have the, like, spiritual muscles to pull yourself out, to be like, I acknowledge that, I notice that's happening, and also I'm gonna, like, pay attention to my surroundings too, and not, like, fractal myself in a million parts, because that's just, you're just going to drain yourself. And I do think, not to do a prediction, but I just feel like more is just going to happen as we, like, raise the frequency of Earth and ourselves. Well, we're going to have to detox. If you've ever done, like, any type of cleanse, if you've ever done a cleanse, whether it's like a parasite cleanse or a spiritual cleanse, or your life is cleansed, like, things will be ejected. If you've gone through, like, a big spiritual, like, upgrade, like, maybe, like, you lose all your friends, or you get a divorce, or you lose your job, like, so, like, we're going to be experiencing, and we are on a global plane. So, like, everything from the underbelly is going to get pushed up, and it's going to seem like, everything is horrible, but really it's coming up and coming out so that it can release. I mean, that's how I do my healing. It's like, if I'm feeling it, it's because something from the past has finally come, like, out of my DNA all the way to the surface, where I can face it. And I think that can be challenging, because people have real emotions and stories that connect to that. And it's just important to remember that, as a person who has a lot of emotions, I'm a Pisces moon. I'm like right there on the cusp, Pisces Aquarius. It's the apex of my yod. I'm feeling things all the time. Like, I'm just like, I'm feeling things all the time, but every emotion doesn't need me to like fall into it and give it this narrative. It's like, just let it move through you. And if some emotions need like longer time to process, but like, you don't have to cling on to every single thing, because a lot of those things aren't even us anyways. And, I think that with energy vampires, it's like, because I have people come to me a lot that are like, I think somebody put a hex on me and da, 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 da. I'm like, well, if you think somebody put a hex on you, then it's very well,
and they probably did.
Could, but also like, you like, I'm not thinking that. Like, if someone tries to do that, it's like, no, dude, like, step into your power and have your edges like really fortified, so that like other people, know the difference between you and other. The minute you think somebody has power over you, they do. And it can change in an instant. I think that we're like jumping timelines like all day long, depending on where you're coming from. You're going to live a different life. You wake up and think that I suck, I'm a garbage person. Well, that life, that day is probably going to be like that, versus waking up being like, no, like, bringing it back. Is why it's so important to notice the patterns. Like, notice the patterns that come through instead of over identifying with them, like as yourself. Like, we've all got things we're working on. Like Jeffrey said, nobody is perfect. It's not real. Like, we're always working on something. We're always shifting something. We've all got areas of like blind spots, but you don't have to like take it into your like essential core of your being. You can notice the pattern and be like, is that pattern taking me to where I want to go? All right, no, well, like, let me change the channel. It's like, let me change the frequency into something that actually works for me. And it's like, if these world problems bother me, okay, well then what am I doing to make the world better? Instead of just being like, everything fucking sucks. Oh, that's not going to help. It's like, what am I going to do to make the world better? I don't want there to be wars. So that means that I got to put more peace and love out into the world. Like, I don't want there to be people feeling like, they're not worth anything. So that I'm going to have to be the most empowered version of myself to remind people that they can be that too, and I think if all of us do this, things really do shift and change. So, yeah, I do think it always comes back to the self, and we have to take responsibility for ourselves, because like, no matter what happened in your life, trust me, I had a really, really, really insane childhood. I can blame my parents till the end of time, or I could say, well, this is my life. I'm stepping into like my responsibility, and I'm going to choose the choices that are best for me, instead of staying in that constant like, program forever. And whatever needs to come up and whatever tears I need to shed, I will. And at some point you do. I mean, that is awareness, and spirituality is a lot of responsibility. Taking clients, a lot of responsibility. I mean, these positions that you're talking, even Jeffrey saying like, you're probably going to need more money to come in, the bigger your like soul mission is, and more money equals more responsibility. Like, it really does. Like, all these things, responsibility and awareness and dedication and discipline and devotion, like, it's like, if you want to be a baby, then you're going to get baby results. And like, sometimes you need to be a baby, but like, it is important. I got Saturn coming up on my moon, so I'm like, I'm more mature now. It's like, maturity is also awesome. Maturity is also awesome. And you blame everybody else for your whole life. You're never going to be able to take that like golden power within and like drive your own avatar. So yeah, I think that we have a lot of opportunities, I feel like, coming up to be more in ourselves than ever before.
What do you think, Jeffrey? Like, practical things people can do like right now, today, that doesn't take much energy to pull it back, draw it in.
Yeah, a few my go-tos. I like to, it's a little bit different process than journaling. I don't know if I've shared it on here or not with your guys's, when we do a group thing like this, but it's more of, and I like what you explained, Verone, of like separating yourself from the vampires. Like, you don't have to bring it into you and have it consume you. You can keep it separate from you. And that's much of this process that I'm talking about, where you can get out a piece of paper, you can just do it at stream of consciousness and just think it through. But you're almost thinking of my patterns, my programs that I'm observing of myself, seeing yourself separate from those, and not like seeing it as like it's playing in my mind, but it's almost like you're seeing it outside of yourself, where it's over here playing and I'm listening to it or I'm hearing it. and then you write that down or just listen to it. And thinking of it as, the way I was taught it was you could think of it as like a little animal talking to you, but it's the stuff going on in your mind. It's that voice that's running of I'm not good enough, or whatever the story is or stories are that you've created. In doing this, you can do this for a week straight, every night before you go to bed. What were the stories running today? Why didn't I accomplish what I wanted to? Why wasn't I the version of myself that I know I can be? Write that stuff down. Ask yourself, what is it that's there? And just listen, and it will pour out of you. There's been times I've written down pages of that. And then you can do things to like destroy the paper, burn it, or shred it, or whatever. You can do various energetic techniques to clear that program at an energetic level on top of it. There's a simple thing from thought field therapy or emotional freedom technique. You can tap the side of the hand. It corrects psychological reversal, which is also correcting a program. It's a very simple technique to do, but you can do that once you've like played that whole pattern and program out. So that's, to me, one of the easy go-tos of that. There's also some simple breathing techniques that you can do within bioenergetics and we call it central channel breathing. It's, comes from some yogic principles. So some of you might have already understood some of these things, but breathing up from Mother Earth into our spine, basically, or up through like the chakras and the spine, and then exhaling out through the top of the head, up through the top chakras into the heavens, and reversing that breath back down. And that can ground you. It can connect you to source, and it can do a lot of things energetically with the body. When we're feeling disconnected, when we're feeling we're giving our power away, we can think of, what are we giving our power away to? And then you can tune into your body. Where do I feel that powerlessness in my body? You might feel it in your throat. Maybe you're not speaking your truth enough. You feel it in your throat chakra. You can feel it any place. It could be sometimes when I'm working with my kids. I was working on my daughter the other night because she had a bad dream the night before that there was an earthquake, and that she was with her, I think my mom and my wife's mom, and there was an earthquake and they all died. So that night before bed, we were doing some simple energy stuff. And I'm like, where do you feel it, sweetie? And she like points just kind of some random spot, So it can be random. You could feel it, chakras, whatever. And then once you do that breathing technique, maybe for a minute or two, and you'll feel things just start to the intensity of the emotion, the intensity of the energy dissipate, or sometimes completely go all the way away. So those are my two easy go-tos that can make a shift with that energy and bring you more to the awareness of what's going on. And then you do that a few times. You do that for a week, like I said, you'll notice, wow, I don't have as many programs going. I'm more conscious in my day-to-day moments because I'm not pulled off course, pulled back into the program, pulled back into the pattern that's running. It's a default setting, but it's not where I want to go. It's not part of my goals and dreams of where I want to go to. And so the more you can do that stuff, it's being in present time consciousness is the way I've heard it. And I was reminded, Verone, as you were talking, not the last time you were talking, but the time before that, you were talking about some really good stuff. I was reminded of one of my mentors, Dr. Mortar, that was the founder of bioenergetic synchronization technique that I do. And he said that really everything in life or everything with our body can go back to one single cause. And a lot of alternative medicine, they're looking at the cause, right? Functional medicine's looking at the cause. Chiropractors, a lot of times, are looking at the cause. And he says the cause of everything is interference. Interference in our body, interference with God, interference between, the brain and the spine and the nerves and the motory system. It could be interference anywhere. But if we are disconnected from the power that created us, we're going to have interference symptoms and patterns showing up in our life. And so when you can identify those interferences and take some of those simple steps like I just outlined, and many of the other ones that both of you ladies share, and thousands of countless other ones, to reintegrate and dissipate that interference and reintegrate conscious and subconscious and energy and chakras, and you're reintegrating everything, the more your life is going to flourish and abundance is going to flow.
I love that. That's all really, really good advice. Basically just purging the things that don't serve you, having an awareness of what drains your energy, and then just simple techniques to protect yourself. Personally, guys, I'm one of those people that does not feel like there is an uber force out there trying to get me. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist in the way that there's a controller telling me what to do and trying to program my life. I feel like there is just simply a organic program that is here, that we're all playing out unconsciously, and that we have the ability as creators, as co-creators of this universe, to live in a flow state, using that program to support us, but yet flourishing and going beyond it and developing our own program. So I don't know. Do you guys feel like victims? Do you feel like there's a big Uber elite trying to control your life out there? Or do you feel like it's there to serve you in some way?
Again, I think I believe yes, 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 yes.
Yes
I
and yes.
think it depends on, like, yes, I think I think that there's organic energies. I believe that there are artificial energies. I think that there are, like, things out there that are like very unsavory, because I'm witnessing that. But ultimately, I'm always going to connect to the energy that, like, loves me unconditionally. Like, I know that, like, I've been brought to that more and more, and as I reflect on my life, there's always been something with me that has guided me. Like, ever since I was a child, I knew I was, like, in a really weird place. Ever since I was a little kid, with people who were, like, gonna hurt me, but there was always something that was, like, guiding me. So even beyond all of it, I feel like I'm still connected to this, like, this force, this, like, this cosmic force that's with me, guiding me. So that kind of goes beyond all of it for me. I think there's a lot inside. And so, sure, I mean, I can tune into kind of anything. This is back to, like, the frequency. It's like, what
Mhm.
station are you tuning into? I feel like I could tune into anything, because I feel very aware of a lot of different workings. But do I feel like there's something personally trying to come get me? No, absolutely not. I feel protected in all dimensions. I feel protected in all realms. I feel deeply, deeply, like, one with, like, the source energy. And if I think something's coming to get me, then maybe it will. And I'm not saying I'm invincible. I'm not going to go, like, run into traffic. And I'm not saying even, like, something couldn't have happened with the hurricane. But we're all the only certainty we have in life is that we're going to die. Like, that's just facts. And so,
Mhm.
and I don't want to be afraid of that either. So, if something's trying to get me, then it's like, is it getting me when I'm dead too? It's like, I just don't feel that. And yeah. So I guess the answer is yes and no.
Yes and yes.
Yes
What
and
about
yes.
what
Yes
about
and
you,
yes.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think kind of similar. Maybe I would
Mhm.
articulate it differently than you, Verone. But yeah, I think, my understanding is, like, there's certainly an elite class that's been running the globe for a long, long time historically. They have usually a different agenda than, the masses. They're usually looking for control and power, and usually comes from more of a lower vibrational, lower consciousness place. And I think that's part of why we come here to planet Earth, is because we need to experience those lower density energies and to learn how to navigate them and to discover our power when we're in the trials and tribulations. So yes, I definitely think they're there. Are they out to get me personally? No. I think that's just the way they are. That's the way they function. And I see the higher spiritual lessons in what we're doing here, and why we're here. And see the bigger picture of, we're here to do things outside of, being caught up in all that negativity and all the drama and all the persecution and all the different things that do definitely exist on this planet. I mean, there's some horrific things that happen on this planet, but at the end of the day, you do create your reality. And so if you're in those horrific situations, then there's lessons in that for you to be able to navigate. And that's part of
Mhm.
your purpose on why you chose to come here, is to navigate those and up level those things. So if you've went through hell, it's for you to learn how to create heaven. It's
Right.
my belief on all that.
It happens for you, not to you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Amazing. Amazing. Cool. Well, we don't have a whole lot of questions from the audience this afternoon, but fellow traveler said that the therapy that you were talking about cured her celiacs. And as a physician, I can attest to that. I can see that when people are in a different space mentally and emotionally, their physical problems change. They get better. It's pretty amazing to watch. You don't even need to really necessarily give them a medication or a drug. The body's just always sort of seeking this homeostasis. So that's very, very interesting. Cool, guys. Well, do you have any like closing thoughts? Anything that you want to anything we might have left out? I encourage all of you all to reach out to both Jeffrey and Verone, because this process of opening yourself up and receiving and letting go and being in flow with your divine purpose and not letting the boogeyman get you, um, is a process that you don't have to do alone. It starts with really knowing yourself. It starts with getting to know that self, and then forgiving yourself and being okay with yourself, like whatever shit you find or whatever you find under the bed when you look at your life, it's okay. Just be okay with it. And then you know who you are, you know what you're dealing with, and then you know what to do next. And you can move forward with an awareness and in a conscious way. So those are my final thoughts. You guys can give your final thoughts. And then I'm going to play an amazing outro that's going to excite everybody. It's got a bunch of fun memes in it. And then we'll call it a day, okay?
Okay. I think the final thing I'll say is that, awareness is a huge part of it. And the only way you're going to have awareness is through acceptance, kind of like to piggyback on what Dr. Danny said. And I think with healing, a lot of times we're trying to get rid of something. We're trying to push like our evil twin off the boat. And you can't. You have to put that part of you that you try to avoid and get rid of actually has to come in closer. Like people say, face your fears. You have to accept all of yourself, because if you're denying yourself any part of you, then you're not going to fully be yourself. It's just not possible. And through that acceptance, you can make different choices. If there's a part of you that like does feel horrible and feels bad and unworthy, pushing that part away from you is only going to make it worse. Like it's like a little kid in the corner. If you're like, shut up, stop crying, that's not going to help it, So you have to bring that part in and be like, yes, there's part of me that feels ugly, or there's part of me that feels bad, or there's part of me that feels broken. And you have to bring that part in. And through that acceptance, you really are able to grow and shift and change. And like Jeffrey said, see the patterns that have been running that whole time. So, wherever you're avoiding yourself, wherever you're trying to push yourself away, whatever you're trying to cut out of yourself, you really need to bring it in closer. That's really the work that I do with people. Again, I have Pluto in my first house, conjunct Saturn. I love the intimate space with people. No, nothing is too much for me. I've really been through it all. And I think that the reason I chose that journey in with my bloodlines and the extreme abuse that I experienced was so that I could help lead other people out of it. The more lack that you've experienced, the more gain you can experience. The more you've gone down, the more that you can go up. And so if you live a lukewarm life, well, you're only going to kind of know the lukewarm. So I think there's power in the intensities, because you really can, the more you can sink down, the more you can grow up, just kind of like the tree. So yeah, maybe those are my closing thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think for me, Verone, you touched on several things that, I could go on probably for another hour talking about it, but I'll keep it very, very succinct and brief. One of the books that Dr. Hawkins wrote, along with the levels of consciousness and power versus force, I think it might have been one of his last books that he wrote before he passed away, was called Letting Go. And, that's something that, my wife will tell me, Jeff, you need to let that go. And I've always been, it's never clicked with me. How do you just let something go? You hear that advice all the time. Oh, you just need to let that go. How do I? Because it's a part of me and I feel it. It's very strong. How do I let that go? Well, in the book, Letting Go, Dr. Hawkins talks about exactly what you just said, Verone, is you actually have to bring it to you. You resist it, and that's why it stays. It's the saying, what resists persists, right? So in order to do that, you have to do the acceptance. And I was reminded, as you talked about acceptance, Verone, I was getting what we call a BEST treatment, a bioenergetic treatment, from one of my local practitioners, a chiropractor here in Michigan that does the work as well, after my dad passed about a year ago. And that was the energy of the session was acceptance. You have to accept what is. And, that's been my theme all summer long, all fall long. And as I was taking over his health insurance practice, I was really close to giving up on it, because it was just going through the death, trying to take care of my mom. My wife's mom was having health issues. And it was just it was beginning to be too much, and I wouldn't necessarily put that in the energy vampire category all the way. I mean, there's parts of it that you could say, yeah, it's sucking your energy. But it was one of those constricting moments of it really got me close to quitting. But then there was that voice deep inside that was you can't quit. And I knew that to my core, so that's what saw me through. But it was that constricting in of going through that, the funnel, and it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Do you have what it takes to come out the other side? And that was what I went through this fall, of that seasoning process of, do I have what it takes? And one of the most powerful pieces of advice I've gotten from any type of my training talked about, when you go through the wall of fire, when you go through the trials and the tribulations, the higher your vibration as you go through that, the better that you create when you come out the other side. And so that was a big thing for me, because after that point where I was about ready to just throw in the towel, I've had the most success I've had ever after that. I've been having more things click and flow and being able to help people, and money is coming in new ways because I went through that experience. And I feel like if I would have just thrown in the towel and quit, I wouldn't be at the place I'm at today. I would have been in more suffering. And so it's that acceptance, it's bringing in that stuff. And Dr. Mortar always talked about, going through these things, upgrade your soul, upgrade your consciousness. And that's what these things are there for. They're always seeds of gold if you see them that way. If you see them as the trials and tribulations and you see them through that lens, they will be that way, and you will cement them in, and you'll carry them into your next incarnation. And you'll have to learn those lessons the next time around. If you can see them as nuggets of gold, see the lessons, do the forgiveness work, whatever it takes, it's going to upgrade you in this lifetime, and you'll be able to go to higher spiritual levels here once you work through those things. So again, I could go on and on. I love this stuff. I will keep it at that because I actually have to get on another call.
Awesome.
So I will wrap up with that.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. I would love to do this again in a month or two. We don't have to be scheduled, just whenever we feel it. I was thinking about both of you when you reached out to me, Jeffrey, just so you know. So we are connected on that level. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging with us and talking with us. I'll see you all on Tuesday. And for those of you in Stellar Foundations, I'll see you on Monday. Bye, guys. Love you all so much.